Umagyanaatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Namaha Adinulambita Bujo Panagabharato Sankirtanaikapitaro Kamalaya Taksha Vishwambaro Dvijabaro Yubadharmakalo Vande Jagadpriyakaro Karunavataro Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gurudaya Pushpavanto Chito Samdotamanido Vandeham Shri Ramakrishna Abhaya Charano Sako Sukado Parananando Sundaro Subalapuya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Sapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwavanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Shri Gauri Vaishnava Guru Parampara Ki Jai Raji Gopal Ki Jai Radha Govinda Ki Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavat Ki Jai Oh, Premanande. So I have to speak over the rain today. Can you hear me on the internet? Those of you who are here. No problem? All good? Okay, it's probably easier for you to hear than the devotees that are assembled here. We don't have any way to amplify my voice for them, but do the best we can, given the conditions. Continuing our discussion of the latter part of the 11th chapter of the 10th book of the Bhagavatam. We heard the verse, I believe it was verse 35, if I'm correct, that, yes, Vrindavanam sampravisya sarvakala sukhabaham tatta chakra bhajavasam shakatir arda chandravat. A verse which introduces the Seish Kumar Leela of Krishna. So he's coming from his Kumar Leela. Is underscored, right? We heard yesterday. Sarvakala Sukhavaham. The special characteristics of the Vrindavan force. I mean, the characteristics that are described here in a broad way, as I said, they are the seed out of which so many poetic descriptions of the forests, plural, of Braj are described. So it really extends to all of the forests, but there's something special about Vrindavan, right? Where Vrindadevi is particularly, although she presides over all of them, resides. Sarvakala Sukhavaham. And they moved across the river, as we heard, out of love. In one sense, driven by Vatsalya Bhav, in pursuit of the protection of Krishna from the kind of things that have been happening in Madhuvan, which are quite astounding and concerning. And on the other hand, they're driven by the Sakya Bhav of Krishna, which is starting to manifest in the Prakat Leela, starting to show up now with the outset of the Seish Kumar Leela, which will include, as we'll hear, his flute will enter the picture, his cows, his calves will enter the picture in terms of him personally taking care of them. And the most important thing of all will enter the picture with regard to his sacrifice, which is no, his friends. They will also enter the picture in verses ahead. Without them, there cannot be any sacrifice. He's the object of it. They are the very vessels or the very personification of it, right? And the two together, this makes Bhakti Rasa of the friendly type, Satya Rasa. Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. In his commentary on verse 41, which is ahead, this was 35, we'll skip now to 39 and 40, where the activities of Krishna and Ram are explained, and they're explained in such a way that the presence of his associates are implied. But in 41, which I haven't cited here, but in 41, the next verse after that, they're actually Sakai Vayasyai mentioned, the group of companions. And Sanatana Goswami makes a very beautiful comment on that verse. He says, they are the Sukharupena, they're the very form of the bliss of Krishna in Satyaras, the bliss of Krishna in Satyaras taking shape before him. Right? Very special, right? These are the people, those who follow the way of Sakyarasa, outlined by Rupa Goswami and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, follow. They follow in the wake of their example of love for Krishna. They are the Ragatmikas that the Sambandhanugas within Rag Bhakti follow. Sambandhanuga, again, we talked about this the other day. There are two types of Rag Bhakti, two forms of this Rag Bhakti. Sambandharupa and Kamarupa. Kamarupa refers to the gopis' love. Sambandharupa refers to either the Dasya, the Sakya, or the Vatsalya of Braj. And so the way to pursue that ideal, for example, of Sakyarasa, that Sambandharupa, the form of love in relationship with Krishna, is called Sambandhanuga. Sambandharupa, as opposed to Kamarupa, is pursued by Sambandhanuga. Those interested or touched if we want to follow Kamarupa, we become a Kamanuga. So if we want to follow the Sambandharupa, what do we become? Sambandhanuga, right, Sambandhanuga. So this is a division within Raganuga that pertains to the other three rasas that are part of the four, including Madhurya rasa. This is really the makeup of Braj. This is what makes the whole thing go round. Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. And this is the influence of Krishna's Swarup Shakti manifesting outside of himself in the form of his associates that embody it. And in that way, he's able to interact with this Swarup Shakti and the play of Leela. This Swarup Shakti, this internal power of Krishna, It's what differentiates Krishna, or any of the forms of Krishna, Vishnu, Tattva, Narayan, from the feature of the Godhead we refer to as Brahman, Nirvishesh Brahman. What does it mean? What am I saying? Nirvishesh Brahman. What does Nirvishesh mean? Nirvishesh. Huh? No quality. Nirvishesh. Nirgun. Well, it's all Nirgun, and there's spiritual qualities, but Nirvishesh, it's undifferentiated. No form, no qualities, no leelas. So what distinguishes the form of Bhagavan from Brahman is the manifest presence of his Swarup Shakti, causes the differentiation. And the more intense the presence or the manifest presence of influence of the Swarup Shakti, the more, as we said the other day, Bhagavan is going to be moving, varied. Look at his leelas, how full of variety they are. We've got a whole 10th canto of the Bhagavatam about his leelas. You can find something about Varaha Leela or Nrsimha Leela, this Leela, that Leela, Narayan's avatars and so forth, but comparatively, the movement, the play of Krishna Leela, it exceeds in terms of playfulness. Indeed, the word Leela, really properly understood, pertains to the Braj. Yeah, there's a mature Leela. How can you say it only pertains to Braj? Yeah, there's a Dwarka Leela. Of course, this is all Krishna. Maturesh Krishna, Dwarkesh Krishna. There's Ram Leela. Narayan's avatars, he has Leela avatars. So how can you say it pertains only to Braj? Or I should say more fully to Braj. And this is where the word is invoked most readily in the Bhagavatam. In a more indirect way, it's invoked after Krishna's departure within the Prakat Leela to Mathura and Dwarka. But the implication of what I'm saying is, or the idea behind it is that the word means play, really. Play. And when you're playing, you're free from any duties or obligations. As soon as Krishna steps outside of Vrindavan, he's got the obligations to establish Dharma, right? And in order to establish Dharma, what does he say in the Bhagavad Gita? He says, Yad yad acharati shreshtas tattereve torojana sayat pramanam kurute lokastharanavad. If one is to establish Dharma, righteousness, the back again, because this verse is one of the few Bhagavad Gita verses cited, for example, in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Verse of the Gita, Krishna says, now he's outside of Vrindavan, right? He says, all the world follows great people who should then set an example for them. They have an obligation. Great people have an obligation to set a good example for others, because people will naturally follow great people. Now, that's not happening very much in the world today, often, unfortunately, but This is Krishna's idea, and it's a good one, right? And he says, so, the common people, they follow great people, and therefore, in his estimation, great people have a burden to set an example for the common folk. And so therefore he says, therefore, I set an example, because if I don't, I'm the greatest person of all. If I don't, then what will become of all the people? If I set a bad example, well, what would we say to that? Well, you do set a bad example in Vrindavan, or a questionable one, right? Because there his parakiya bhav is manifesting, right? And like a volcano erupting in his heart, in the midst of his Pogandalila, yet to be discussed, and fully, how you say, lava pouring down the mountainside in his Kishore Lila. What did Pujapad Sridhar Maharaj refer to? How did he refer to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this regard? The golden volcano, right? The golden volcano, the lava of love, just outpouring. The munificence, really, the munificence that is also part of sadhus. He told the gopis, your love for me is very special. It's like a sadhu's love. It's unconditional, a sadhu's love. How can I possibly repay you? I have to become a sadhu. I'll become a sadhu, and in the pursuit of your love, to be a proper sadhu, I'll distribute your love everywhere. I'll give it everywhere. And Balaram, you come with me, right? Yes, you come with me and help me. Because Balaram's ahead of the curve, he knows. So Nityananda Ram appears before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to help set the scene. As indeed Balaram enters the womb of Devaki to make it ready for Krishna's birth. So Nityananda Ram appears in the world to make it ready in some sense for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. And then points to him, as we've been discussing, right? So outside of Braj, Krishna is now in the world. The Braj is like out of the world. It's out back. It's like you have, your Aborigine tribes. You think of it like this. There are some tribes that have, I read an article, that only recently have been discovered on the planet. In some, I forget where it was, some jungle. They don't know anything about the world around them. They're still carrying on as they have been for hundreds and hundreds of, maybe thousands of years, right? Don't you want to go there? Must be something wrong with our modern world for us to think like that, to see what they're like, what they think, and so forth. Well, it's not quite that extreme. The Braj people know about Mathura. They know a little about the scripture, but not too much. They're cowherd people. That's not their preoccupation. That's for the high-minded sages and sadhus who visit there sometimes, and are given great respect, of course, and whose minds are bewildered by the love of these people, the love that the Sutralupena, how they are the very form, as I mentioned earlier, of the bliss of Bhagavan, who are off the pages of the Upanishads. They're beyond it. When Uddhava came to Vrindavan, this was his conclusion. And he wandered in the forest for a couple of months, singing a couple of verses of his own composition. And among them, I forget the Sanskrit, one of my favorites now, but he basically said, what's going on here, and the gopis' love in particular, it's off the scriptural map. And I am, the implications, and I am Shastravit. I'm the knower of all the Shastras, so much so that Krishna has chosen me as his advisor. And of course, I advise according to the sacred texts, whether it be the Dharma Shastra, Niti Shastra, this Shastra, that Shastra. He was familiar with all of them, Kama Sutra, everything, and the Upanishads, and so on. Shastravid. But what he experienced in Vrindavan, that is off the map. What did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's conversation with Ramananda Roy end up in? It is off the map. So Ramananda said, I will reply to your questions with reference to the sacred texts. What is the best? What was his basic question of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? What is the highest ideal, the sadhya, and what is the sadhana to attain it? And he begins with Varnashram, Gyamnishra Bhakti, and so on, right? Unmixed Bhakti. Then he started to get somewhere. But with every answer that he gave, that Mahaprabhu asked him, say more. That's not enough. That's external. Say, now you're getting somewhere, he said. A little more like that. When he came to Sakyaras, he said, now that's beautiful. So with every answer that he gave as to the sadhya, he cited something from scripture. But in the end, Mahaprabhu wanted even more. And Ramananda Roy said, I could say something, but I can't give a scriptural quote for that. It's off the map. Mahaprabhu encouraged him, and then he spoke a poem, right? After this, Mahaprabhu covered his mouth. The implication of what he was saying is that the union of Radha and Krishna, the union of Radha and Krishna is such that when they get as close in union as possible, their roles switch. Radha starts to think of herself like Krishna, Krishna starts to think of himself like Radha, and this union is compromised. But the solution to that problem was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. Radha Bhava, Mahabhav Rasaraj, Dui Ek Rup. Mahabhav, this is Radha. Rasaraj, this is Krishna. Dui, two, Ek, Rupa, in one form. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu covered his mouth. He had so that's why I say this Ramananda Samvad is like the Gita is to the Mahabharata. Of course, the Chaitanya Charitamrita is much more rich in spirituality and esoteric insight than the Mahabharata. And so the Gita, if you will, within the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is this conversation between Ramananda and Mahaprabhu, this is the Gita on steroids, right? As I say. So outside, at any rate, of Braj, Krishna is establishing Dharma. He has to set an example. He's now in touch with the city people, and they're familiar with the scriptures and so forth. Just come from the jungles, cowherding people. Of course, they also follow the Varnashram and so forth, but they're on the lower end. They're the Vaishyas and move to the city only to become very poor and unhappy. It happens in so many places. One of the problems of industrial society. So, at any rate, the point is that when he goes to Mathura, he has to establish Dharma. Right? He ultimately ends up speaking the Gita, and so on and so forth. And this verse that I cited, he speaks. But how much does it apply to Vrindavan? What kind of example does he set there for the people? Well, you have to look very close at the sequel to the Gita in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam to understand that Leela. You have to look at the Bhagavatam, which is the sequel to the Gita, and you have to look at it how? How should you look at it? Every now and then? No. The book itself tells us what? Nasta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhakti bhavati nashti. Regularly reciting the Bhagavatam, regularly serving, associating with the person Bhagavatam, paying very close attention. What this book is all about, which is what the Gita is really all about, and hinting at, pointing to, can be understood. So outside of Vrindavan, the point is that Krishna is playing, but his play is somewhat restricted by the necessity. To set an example, he's a royal figure. He has subjects. He's a prince, along with Ram, Balaram. But in Vrindavan, he's just a spoiled child. He can do whatever he wants. He can do it. That is also how shocking it was just before they came across the Jamuna, that Yashoda tied him up because he's the son of the king of the cowherds. He can do whatever he wants. When he wanted to go cowherding, which is ahead, now he's getting here permission to be a calf herder, okay, but just don't go too far. Too far. You come back for lunch, something like that. But when he wanted to become a cowherder, as his poganda started to manifest, then how much resistance was put up by Nanda, and even more so by Yashoda. And Yashoda made the argument, yes, you're a cowherd, that's true, but you're the son of the king of the cowherds, and he's got so many assistants, so you don't have to go out and take care of the cows. That's a job. You don't have to have a job. Well, Krishna likes this job. He likes this job. And as we'll see in these texts here, even as he's beginning to herd calves, another way in which that marks his entrance into the cusp between childhood and boyhood, as Sesh Kumar, is that it is on the pretext, really. It is on the pretext of herding cows. Because he tells his mother, as he does later in the Poganda, you say that I don't have to take care of cows because I'm the son of Nanda. He has so many assistants. But is it fair to say to a Brahmin boy that someone else can recite the scriptures instead of him? And mother thinks, oh, he's so religious and dharmic and so smart. This is a Poganda. His intelligence is starting to develop more. He has good arguments. And he needs them to convince her, with the help of his friends in Balaram, that they can be freed to go and herd cows, which is a pretext with regard to Sakura for playing. They're really going to play. And the cows are just following along. Even though they lead the way, they have eyes that, that go further back. So you can stand behind a cow. Here's the cow, you can stand looking this way. You can stand behind the cow here. making the ground soft for his tender bare feet. So this cow herding is a job, but the nature of the Leela is such that the labor of it is taken out. And in another sense, as I'm saying, it's really a pretext for playing. And when we go further to Madhurya Rasa, it's a pretext for playing with his friends primarily, and further, it's a pretext for rendezvousing with the gopis, cow herding. And the cows are complicit in the affair, in his romantic affairs. They are a form of Vatsalya Ras. That's not getting in the way, assisting, a little bit indirectly. But. So Leela, the Leela, the play, this properly understood, most fully pertains to Vrindavan. It is said that, or I have said that, that if we look at all the different gods and goddesses in the Hindu pantheon, and who can we choose will be supreme? Well, one has 4 heads, or one has 5. One's riding a bull, another's riding a peacock. That's pretty cool. Who's the supreme? All these things, of course, mean something. Who's their carrier? What's their appearance, and so on and so forth. Well, leave it to the Gaudiya Vaishnavas to take on this challenge, and it is a big one. There are lots of gods and lots of goddesses in Hinduism, and this is one of the points that uneducated, with regard to Hinduism, Christians invoke to dismiss it altogether. I've even seen Hindu-born or Indian-born Christian converts who are evangelicals, when speaking about Hinduism, dismiss it altogether because 30 million gods or something like that. Like it's an insane idea, right? But all the gods, we have the gods with the lower G and the upper G, right? The lower G, these are all represent divine posts of some power with regard to overseeing the world of Maya that can be taken up by certain jivas of a pious nature, right? And then the gods with the capital G, the Vishnu Tattva, different faces of Bhagavan. These are demigods like you take Brahma or Indra and so forth, Varuna. These positions are partial faces of the Godhead. His power is there in them for a particular purpose. And then, as I say, we have the Vishnu Tattva itself. Many gods, or many faces of the one God. But as I said, leave it to the Gaudiyas, and they have done an excellent job of this. We look to bring it to Lagu Bhagavatamrita Rupa Goswami, going through the different faces of the Godhead. Brahma Samhita, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so much regarded, and so the tattva of Gaudiya Vaishnavism is in here, is in this book. He brought it back from South India, 5th chapter of the Brahma Samhita. And another book, Krishna Karnamrita, said the highest bhav is in this book. Here you go, Bhava and the Tattva. Radha Dasyam and Radha Bhav and the Tattva. What is the Tattva? It really stands out so overtly in the 5th chapter of Brahma Samhita. What is the Tattva? That we learn without even having to think about it. It's so overt in Brahma Samhita. Do you know any prayers from Brahma Samhita? Do you know any line of any prayer from Brahma Samhita? Which one? Govinda, Adi Purusham, Tamaham Bhagwan. And what does that mean? Adi Purusha. It means Krishna's true Bhagavan Swayam, over and over again. and in relation to describing Durga, describing Brahma, describing Shiva. It's going through the number of the principal gods and goddesses. They're like this, and Govindam Adi Purusham Tamam. And Govinda, there are aspects of Govinda. This is what Mahaprabhu meant when he said the tattva of Gaudiya Vaishnavism is here. This is what Jiva Goswami called the I can't remember it. Anyway, the password to unlocking the tattva, most foundational point of tattva in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But Krishna is the source. And I made this point. I made this point a number of times. If Krishna is not the source of Narayan, we've got a big problem. Therefore, we argue strongly for it. Because Krishna appeared in his Prakat Leela, and he played with his friends, and he consorted with the gopis in the forests of Braj. And these are the most charming leelas that you could known in human society. Of all the leelas, of all the leela avatars, this is captivate all of Hindus, all of the Hindus. Bhagavatam has been rendered in so many different languages, over 80 Sanskrit commentaries on it. You can't find one Sanskrit commentary on the Garuda Purana, or this Purana or that Purana. And those Puranas say, obeisances to the Bhagavad Purana. Garuda Purana, for example, obeisances. It is the natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra. It is the Samaveda of the Vedas, where the Psalms are. It is the commentary on the Gayatri Mantra, the first original Vedic mantra. This is Garuda Purana saying it about the Bhagavatam. We're just collecting the information, making it available. This is what the Goswamis did. Nana Shastra Vicharanayika Nipuno Sadharma Samstapako Yokanam Hita Karino Tribhuvane Mano Sharanam. Out of karunya, out of compassion for the loka, for the people of the world, they took from all these texts, all a broad body of sacred texts, and compiled their bhakti shastras. They showed that all these texts, properly understood in context, they're all speaking about bhakti. And if you look closer, they're speaking about Braj Bhakti, and about the fact that Krishna is the source of all faces of God. And he came to earth, Krishna. We know it by his very Leela. This is the point of Gaudiya Bhakti. Look at this. I mean, if you're infatuated by, if you're taken by, you're drawn in by Krishna Leela. In so many places, there are Bhagavad discourses, and so many people in India will come. These Leelas are memorized by the children, so they're easy to memorize, they're easy to remember. Because they're just, we resonate with them as humans. The childhood of Krishna, the boyhood of Krishna, the romantic life of Krishna. We experience these things. God came to experience those things here in a big way on earth. So these charming Leelas, so compelling. Now, the point I'm making is that if Krishna, and I made it before, but it's worth emphasizing, if Krishna is not the source of Narayan, but an avatar of Narayan, then those Leelas will only be manifest in the Prakat Leela. And when Krishna goes back into Narayan, in Vaikuntha, there's no Braj Leela. It's only in the manifest Leela. How can it be, we'll think? The Sadhu Goswamis, they've come to our rescue. We've been charmed by Krishna Leela. They've come to our rescue. They said, don't worry. In fact, they said, Krishna himself has said it. Turn to the Gita, where Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has underlined 4 verses, saying these are the 4, just as the Bhagavatam has 4 seed verses or most important verses. So here in the Gita, and how do they begin? Aham sarvasya prabhava Mata sarvam pravartate. Iti matva. Sarvasya prabhavo. Everything is in me. Mata sarvam pravartate. And everything proceeds from me. Hmm? And knowing this, he says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. Iti matva bhatante mam buddha bhava samamrita. Knowing this, one has in place the necessary knowledge for rag bhakti. Is what he's saying. Raga bhava samamrita. Sridhar Maharaj sometimes used to render rag bhava samamrita. And I'm explaining how it's because now that as we said, what is the argument? And I mentioned it the other day from Gopal Champu. If there's the highest love of the gopis, well, what's her name? The mother of Parikshit Maharaj, Uttara. She asked, "Where can it be found? Hmm? Where is it? Hmm? Is there a realm?" And then the second canto, Goloka Mahatmya, the glories of Goloka, the Mahabhaikuntha. Hmm? So in the Braj Leela, then, here Krishna is playing, and this Leela has been opened up to us by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's descent. And this is one beautiful expression of that, the Sakya-rasa. It's so, as we've been hearing, relevant to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's campaign. It's a campaign for the sake of underscoring the excellence of Radha's love, to which he bows. And he gets the most assistance from Nityananda Ram, right? So we've gone through a bit of inspired thoughts here, but relative to the discussion, we are reiterating a little bit the verse that we read yesterday, the 35th verse of the 11th chapter of the 10th canto, when Krishna's Seish Kumar Leela begins in text 35, then 37, 38, or 38, 39, or I should say 39, 40, 41, Krishna's friends are introduced. So, and other things. So let us cite some of those verses. Yes. So Krishna has come to Vrindavan. There's two sides of it. I was saying he's drawn there by the Vatsalya Bhava, and he's drawn there by the Sakya Bhava, which is now just starting to manifest within him. So you can understand that correspondingly, his friends are now going to have to appear on the scene. They are the personification of that love, right? So Bhagavatam says, Kachid badayanto benum chepanai chipita kachit. Kachit padai kinkinibi kachit krimitamo krimito go vishai. Vishamano nardanto yudhate parasparam anukritya utarjantum cheratu prakrito jata. Sometimes, so they've come to Vrindavan, they've crossed the Jamuna, they put their bullock carts in a half moon formation along the straight bank of the Jamuna. They have arrived. now we jump to, so what takes place there? There's very nice descriptions that precede the verse that I've cited as to as they approaching Vrindavan and the excitement of Krishna and Balaram. So they're going to spring into actions and activities that previously were unseen by them, relative to the manifestation. The origins of baseball and football, soccer, and Krishna Lila, right? He has this young athleticism and interest in sport, right? So they didn't sell any balls in the store, so he's using fruits and so forth, and making slings and shooting them. Their ankle bells made music, turning their sporting into dancing as brothers blew into makeshift bamboo flutes. They roared loudly like herd bulls and imitated mother cows, and sometimes they fought with one another, relishing yudha rasa. In this way they wandered, imitating forest animals and the sounds of the woodland, playing exactly like ordinary boys. Ramakrishna Jai. So the implication here in this verse is, of course, they're playing, not just the two of them, but with companions, right? And this is one of the beautiful things about Sakyarasa. It's a point raised by the Anglican theologian, what is his name? I cited him in my introduction to Circle of Friends. See my memories, short-term memories. Anyway, famous Anglican. He was speaking about the virtues of friendly love, brotherly love, and how it has a little bit differently than I was speaking about it the other day, how it has a divine quality to it. One of which is that in fraternal love, the more, the merrier. But you said that this is such as the nature of the spiritual world. There's always room for more there. There's always room for more. There's never like, I don't know if we can feed him. There's no such concerns there. It's a welfare state, and everything is provided. Everything is provided. It's a spiritual communism. Krishna is the center. Everyone gives to the center. And everything is provided by that. Everybody has only one duty. What is it? Love Krishna. That's all. And everything is provided. So there's always room for more. Romantic love, I'm not so sure about that. In the same way. So the more the merrier, right? So implied here is that they're playing. It's not just Ram and Krishna playing themselves with all these sports. There are many friends. And as I say, in the next verse, which I haven't cited here in this text, but in the next verse of the Bhagavatam, they're mentioned. And Sanatana Goswami describes them, as I said, as the very Sukharupena, the form of Krishna's own bliss in Sakyabhav, appearing before him. How wonderful. The boys, I'll read a little bit from my commentary. The boys delighted. Well, I should say, one thing that's introduced here also, that I haven't commented on here, that is of interest to us, because different now ingredients, the things that are very relative to Sakyarasa are coming into play. have previously not been on the scene in the enchanting Leelas of Krishna, something that serves to make them more enchanting. What is that? It has been mentioned here. Kachit Badayato Venum. The very first thing. That's describing their play. What's the first thing that's mentioned? And they played on venus, on bamboo flutes. And they played on bamboo flutes. The flute is said in the Brahma Samhita to be Priyasaki, the dearmost companion of the cowherds. Right? When Krishna plays the flute, and you can know where he is, and he can send messages through the notes of his flute, speak to the different species even. So this is, of course, we could say, who is Krishna without his flute? We're talking about Bhagavatam, Venu Gita, describing the effects of Krishna's flute on them. Devastating, right? Bringing him to the verge of adharma, of breaking with dharma and running off with him. The terrible flute. It's like Sanat, like Rupa Goswami says, don't go to the banks of the Jamuna. Because your everything will be ruined. Everything will be taken. If you see him standing there playing his flute, then you won't be able to do anything else. You have to give up your job, give up your everything, all of the concerns. Don't go there. This is that. So let us introduce Krishna to the world. It may take time. It takes time for us to get acquainted with him, right? You want a relationship with Krishna? Give it some time. Get to know him. Find someone who knows him. Attach yourself to that person, right? Gradually, you'll get to know him, and this is the positive way. Right? He is so charming. By getting to know him, you will not care about anything else. So, with so much effort, intelligent people, 1 out of 1,000, are walking off barefoot to the Himalayas as young boys to find their soul, find their Atman, to live in a cave. It's cool up there. Without any thought where I will get my next meal. The mountain will provide. It's pointing to the heavens and beyond. It's the tallest peak on this planet, pointing to beyond. I'll go there, away from the world, all the struggle and so forth. And they undergo great austerities, to let go, to move away from them and get them out of the mind. Chitta vritti nirodha, to make the mind free from all these vrittis of the world. It makes it go around and implicate me in that. Difficult thing. What did Uddhava say? He said, I'm not going to the Himalayas for that. Our renunciation will be this. We will wear the hand-me-downs of Krishna. He's talking about Krishna in Dwarka. He's royal, regal. So you imagine what his clothes are like. We know what his clothes are like, right? He came to Mathura in rural attire. It's very charming. But rural attire. His ornaments, the gunja berries, and is decorated with different minerals, and simple dress. And he comes to Mathura, and among other things, what does he do? He says, I'll take those clothes from the washerman. The washerman said, those are the king's clothes. You're a cowherd. These are the king's clothes. And Krishna dealt with him, took the clothes, put them on, dressed his friends also like kings, right? So in his material Leela, and then on to Dwarka, he has a royal dress. And Uddhava says, our renunciation will be, we'll wear the clothes of Krishna that he's finished wearing. Do you need this one anymore? Do you just, I don't like that anymore. I'll take it. That will be our renunciation, he says. Instead of living in a cave, fasting, bathing in the Ganga up to the neck on the coldest day of the year, to realize that there's no difference between hot and cold, it's all in the mind. Uddhava says, I'll realize that by wearing the remnants of Krishna. That's my renunciation. That means I will go naked without the dress of Krishna. We will say, I will I will not eat. I will only honor Krishna Prasadam. I will stop eating. This is the idea. This is my fasting. I will stop eating altogether. How will you do that? I will honor Krishna Prasadam. That is an anga of bhakti. Come back. What I'm saying to you is seva, service, as a means to overcome the antithesis or the opposite of service. Service is giving, loving. The opposite is taking. Taking is our problem. Service as a way to overcome the taking within us is very comprehensive compared to simply trying to stop taking. If I try to stop taking, that'll be very difficult. But if I give everything to the center that I come in touch with, my whole heart and mind, then very easily I will stop taking. It's a more comprehensive way to overcome the problem of taking. But it doesn't look like it because it's so easy. I mean, is it not easier to cook a nice feast and offer it to Krishna and take it than it is to fast for whatever, how many days, and live in a cave? It's obviously easier, but it looks so easy that some people just think it couldn't be. It couldn't deliver the highest thing. But this is the generous and powerful nature of Krishna Bhakti, and particularly the Rag Bhakti that Mahaprabhu was given to the world. Because these kind of people that Krishna is surrounded by, these friends that he's kicking balls with, the fruits, and shooting them at him, and trying to avoid when they throw them at him, playing these games with, these people, they have completely captured the heart of the Absolute. It's astonishing. And if we have this idea that I'd like to be like that, just that idea, I'd like to be like that, like them. It's so, the selflessness of theirs is so extreme, and it takes this form that is so charming, that I'm charmed to the selflessness. And then the austerity of arriving at that, which is considerable. Bhakti yoga is easy, but it's a yoga. It will be accomplished much more readily, more easily than through any other method, because thinking like I'd like to be like them, what are you saying? I would like to be to the absolute, like those who are just most dear to him, who have given everything to them. This is going to bring his attention to you. He's going to say, you want to be like them. Most people write it off as a myth. It's just some story. It doesn't have any ontological roots. You've seen through that. Who have you been talking to? Who have you been hearing from? Oh, I see. Then you have the name. Rajsundari, given by one of my representatives. And you understood, and you think like this. There's no way to get Krishna's attention more, and Krishna's true Bhagavan Swayam. So if you want to get the attention of the Absolute, the Godhead, the One, He is the One. And there's no better way to get it. I would like to be like those friends of Krishna, like those lovers of Krishna. That's my, who am I to think like that? My Guru has told me to think like that. And I'm charmed by the way he or she talks about it. So, although I'm not qualified, I still want it. You can have it. You will get Krishna's attention. You'll have to go through so many practices and so forth, then, and give your all in all, but it will be easy to give your all in all comparatively by being able to focus and center it on such a beautiful thing as Krishna and his Leela and his flute playing. To hear his flute. Kachid bhadayato benum. So here, in this verse, the flute of Krishna first appears on the scene. So important. So the seed, then, of all the descriptions of Krishna's flute, seed verse where it first appears in the Bhagavad here. Later, just at the end, this is the beginning of his Seish Kumar Lila. At the end of his Seish Kumar Lila, then Brahma will give a nice verse that we can use better than this to meditate on Krishna in his Seish Kumar Lila with his flute. Vibradvenam jataraha patayo. Vibradvenam jataraha patayo. Brahma saw him. This is after the Vimohan Lila. Brahma realized, oh my God, God is standing before me, and this is what he looks like. Vibradvenam jatara patayo, etc. He is holding a flute. Where is he holding a flute? Tucked between his belly and his blouse, he's got a flute. And he goes on. We'll get to that verse. It's a very, very beautiful verse, useful verse for Mantramayi Upasana in the pursuit of Sakyabhav. But the point is here that it is being introduced at this point. How important then? This is our way from Sakyabhav point of view, saying, see how important is this Sakyabhav. This point, the flute comes. How important is the flute? The Leelas are already enchanting. It's not that these Kumar Leelas are not enchanting, they are. But when we add the flute now, which is by its very nature a very enchanting instrument, then what will take place? What will this bring to the Leela? Kechid balayatu benum. And as I said, they played with the fruits and made balls out of them and games they invented and so on and so forth. Sometimes Ram and Krishna shot round fruits. Oh, I read the translation. Let me read something from the commentary. What is the time? We'll just read a little bit. The boys both delighted and confounded, as the verse says, their calves by covering their heads and backs with shawls as they bent over and raised their hands to their heads as if they were horns. The cows thought, is that another cow? Calves thought, is that our mother? And they roared like bulls. Is that our father? This way they played, right? They fought with one another in sport, relishing Yudhavira Rasa, which is a very dear friend of Sakya Rasa. So they began this wrestling with one another, competition amongst friends and so forth. Very athletic group. Yudhavira Rasa is one of the friends of Sakya Rasa, very dear to the cowherds. And at this stage, they began to learn about the many different forest animals, comparing them to domestic animals, because they were familiar with domestic animals, and now they were seeing animals in the forest that they weren't familiar with. So they were trying to compare them to animals that they had seen in the village. At this age, they began to learn about the many different forest animals, comparing them to domestic animals they were familiar with. For example, Krishna compared the Rohisha deer to a horse and a buffalo combined. It looks like a combined horse and buffalo, he said. While he found it difficult to compare the Sambara deer to any domestic animal at all. Krishna also learned the languages of the forest creatures. All of the Sakas found the forest fascinating and enchanting. Krishna learned the languages, so this is another quality of Krishna, right? What was it? Vidvidad Bhuta Bhashabid. He spoke all the different languages. He's going to start speaking languages of the birds and the deer and so forth, to the amazement of everyone. So this is a quality of Krishna that starts to manifest at this point. It's not manifest in his Kumar Leela. See how rich is his cowherding Leela. During these summer months, as I said, they crossed the river just as the summer is beginning. All the boys swam and competed with one another, floating on logs, exclaiming, "Whoever is king of the log is king of the log." Thinking such pronouncements were extremely profound. Whoever is king of the log is king of the log. They thought it was very profound to say such things, and indeed, they were profound, drowning out the sounds of the Shruti, the Upanishads, that unto themselves lead one far from the shore of Goloka. I'm referring here to a verse that is cited in Padyavali of Rupa Goswami, later cited in Bhakti Sandarbha of Jiva Goswami. Rupa Goswami's verses in Padyavali are classified under different, or grouped under different headings, subheadings. I believe he classifies or puts this under the subheading of Krishna Katha, the power of the glory, Krishna Katha Mahatmya. Speak about the glories of Krishna Katha. This verse says, Shruti, Shrotam api Upanishadam dure harikatamrita. The sounds of the Shruti, of the Upanishads, by uttering them like Tattvam Asi, Aham Brahmasmi, Neti, Neti. Jnanis like these statements, trying to make sense out of them. They're like Zen cones. Tattvam Asi, you are that. Huh? You are that? No, you are you. That is that. How does that make sense? Keep chanting. Tattvam Asi, Tattvam Asi. These sounds, they're like Rupa Goswami says, Nikila Shruti Apimol Ratnamolyam, in a similar vein. They're like jewels of the Upanishads that give off light. But properly understood, their light is all shedding light on two syllables, Krishna. He says this in his Namastakam, similar to what I'm citing here from Padabali. He says, Shrotam api upanisham padisham dure harikatamrita. The talks, harikata, about Hari, about Krishna Lila, he's saying. Where you can arrive by focusing on that is far beyond Dure, far beyond where you can arrive by chanting Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. This is the just 101 of spiritual life. This is the basic course. What is the Atma? It's likeness to Brahman. It's just entry-level consciousness studies. And Harikatam, when you hearing Harikatam, this is the beyond the PhD course on consciousness. Right? He says, because by that chanting, Kampashu Pulakadaya, you get a body that's full of bhavas, sattvika bhavas, anubhavas, suitable for the flexibility of Krishna Lila. So the point I'm making here in citing this is, they said things like, where is King of the Log? There's King of the Log. And they thought it was very profound. And it was very profound. If you look at it in the context of the Leela, then these statements that, independent of that, well, they're not very profound, they're just children playing, right? What does it mean, whoever's king of the log is king of the log? Well, I mean, that, of course, whoever's king of the log is king of the log. I mean, only a child will say that, because it reasons things out very well. But these are deeply reasoned, deeply felt. Deeply felt. These are the feelings of the playful nature of Sakiras in competitive spirit that is being described here. That's so central to it. The play in the forest with Ram and Krishna and their friends. This is beyond thinking, beyond reasoning. In one place in Gopal Champu, Jiva Goswami makes this very nice statement. He says, and there are no questions. There are no teachers to answer them. There's nothing to be known, and there's nothing that's unknown. This is what it means. A kind of knowing by which one knows there's just nothing more to be known. We'll just do this now. We've arrived. What is it? We just play. We just play. Reminds me of a point I was making earlier that I didn't fully finish making. In all of the Hindu pantheon, of all the gods and goddesses, right? The devotees have taken the challenge to sort out who's who in all of that and come to the conclusion that Krishna is the source of all of them. And part of that reasoning is why? Because Krishna is that form of the Godhead who is only playing. He has no duty. He has no job. His job is cow herding, but as I said earlier, the cowherds take the job out of it, right? Only playing, because one who only plays must have all power, because it takes power to play. You have to have the power of time, vacation time, money in the bank, and so forth, to be able to play for a little while. But then our duties arise, right? Even if they're only bodily duties, they're all bodily ecstasies. He's only playing. He who is only playing is all powerful. This is Krishna. It seems he doesn't look like he's all powerful. Look carefully. He has nothing to accomplish. Shiva's meditating. Brahma's trying to figure it out with 4 heads. Had to organize the whole world. The guy is pretty occupied. Vishnu's everywhere. Krishna's in a secret place. Private Svetadweep, a private island. Gokul, center of Goloka. And only playing. What comes to this, we'll stop there. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhurevacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrindo ki jai. Gaur Premanande.
Maharaj ki jai.